I feel like we haven't seen each other in like 2 months.
It is. It feels that way. It's been a really long time, man. I
I
was
think we.
go for
How's
it.
life?
It's good. I was traveling a lot. I traveled. I went to New York,
Yeah,
which was great. I love going to New York. Yeah, it's been a really long time since we
yeah,
talked.
yeah,
I went to New York. My favorite. It is my favorite place in the world. Not because that's where I'm from.
yeah.
It is
You
just.
just love it.
I just love it. Um, One of my favorite things to do in New York is especially around this time of the year. It's like
Mhm.
fall and it starts to cool down just a little bit. Just to walk through New York City when the weather
Yeah.
is nice and cool, and then
Uh,
there's this ton of energy.
yeah,
Everybody's out, and it is fast, and it's just brisk,
yeah.
and there's just
Get a
a
cup of
life to it.
coffee and let's go. Yeah.
That's it. That's
I
it.
miss
And
I miss that too, man. That's like literally like September, October are just my favorite months of the year in the US because it's like it's turning, but it's crisp and it's not hot anymore, and you're just pounding it. And if it starts to snow a little bit, man, I love it. I miss
I
that. But
used
I'm
to.
out here in the desert.
Now you're in the desert. Yeah, it's not exactly the same. So I shared this with my kids that my favorite thing. So I worked in Manhattan for a
Yeah.
really long time, and right when I used to, whatever around this time, it just the memory of it is just so vibrant. But I would stand at my building. They've got these doors that just rotate and you go out, and
Yeah.
I would put my headphones on and I would just start and I would turn it on. I would put the music on really loud
Yeah.
and I'd close my eyes and I'd have Smashing Pumpkins on, right? And I don't know if
Oh,
anybody who likes, but
I
if anybody
love
ever
the
watches
Smashing
this.
Pumpkins.
And I would wait. There's a song that has this great intro that starts with a like the drums and
Uh-huh.
it just builds, right? And I would close my eyes and I would listen, and right at that one spot when it cuts right, like when the guitar comes in, like everything, it just hits. I would
Uh-huh.
open my eyes and I would walk right out the door with it really
Boom.
loud, and it's like you're in a music video.
Let's go.
It was like, let's go. It was the greatest experience. So anyway, just went to New York, spent 2 weeks, and had a great time. Met a ton of people. I had a really great I don't, we you know this, but I'm in a business advisory and consulting space helping American companies come into India, and I met with this. I can't share it just yet, but this incredible client potentially who
Hmm.
wants to work with us to come to
Hmm.
India, and it's a sports organization, and
Sweet.
they're like really huge. And so
They're
anyway,
in, huh?
we're yeah, they're we're talking about it, and so anyway, very
Cool.
excited.
I
Yeah. How are you
love
doing?
it. I'm a little bit tired, but
Are you
I'm
really?
here. I've been in, so I live outside of Dubai about an hour, and if there's traffic, which is anywhere from about 4:30 until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, it adds like either half hour, 45 minutes. But I've been working in Dubai like every day for the last 2 weeks. So it's just back and forth, and like just busy. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with you tomorrow and for a couple days, and then maybe having a little downtime after. But man, I don't know what this whole blockchain life thing is going to be, but I think it's going to be fun. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah,
tomorrow,
yeah,
I'm flying to from New Delhi to Dubai,
yeah,
and we're going to be hanging out for a couple of days, and we are going to attend
yeah.
Blockchain Life 2023 in Dubai. So that's a crypto conference. I've never been to one.
Yeah.
The goal for the episodes that we had, that you were gonna teach me some stuff. I was gonna learn some stuff, and then we're gonna go attend this conference to see, hey, if have we learned anything, and can we swim with the big fish,
Yeah,
or at
with the
least
whales.
uh, with the whales, and see how it goes, right? So we're gonna show up on the 24th and the 25th and see how
Yeah,
it goes. If all this learning kind of paid off, and I'm a little bit nervous. I will say
yeah,
that I'm a bit nervous. Because I've been thinking through this because we went through a whole bunch of different terms,
yeah.
right? Understanding what everything is. Um, there are a number of things that are going on pretty hot and heavy right now, that we didn't cover, which
Like
is
what?
okay, like ETF,
Okay. We
which
could talk about it.
we can talk about that baby today
Yeah,
because that's like a big hot term that is being thrown around all over the place.
yeah,
Um, Now, I also was thinking about, man, if I get a chance on the big stage to ask a question, what
yeah. What
would
would you
that
ask?
question be, right?
Sure.
Um, and really, obviously, I mean, the most obvious one is, what would you tell the average guy? Like, I'm the average
Mm,
guy. What would all of you experts up here,
experts. Yeah.
right, tell me
Mm,
what should I know,
sure.
right? Trying to step into this world. That's one question I thought that I would love to hear from people,
Yeah.
those experts. The second thing that I really thought would be that I'm really curious about is when I kind of researched a little bit and did the math. I found out that about 5% of the world's population owns crypto. Right?
5%. Is it
Yeah,
like
but
that's a backed up stat from somewhere?
hey, listen, when I Google,
Would Google lie
uh,
in the first page?
yeah,
I don't think so.
exactly. I don't think so. So for exactly. So I only
Uh,
go a page deep, all right? Not even, right? First search, right? But it was like
sure.
something like 420 million
Sure.
people, right?
Yeah.
Fine. All right. So
Seems high to me, but let's roll with it.
let's roll with it, right?
Yeah.
I, you're saying that it seems high, but
Yeah.
I just went. I told you the other day I went right in the town that I live in, which is super small,
Yeah.
where it's like a village in India,
Yeah.
but I
There's
went.
only 100,000 people there.
Well, a village in India is like 5 million people.
Exactly.
But
That's what I'm saying.
but but this guy, I was just randomly talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I bought a Bitcoin like, 6 years ago or something like that." And
Whoa. Yeah. I
I was
remember
like,
seeing that.
"Really?"
That's
Yeah.
wild.
So maybe it is. When you are, I've seen a bunch of videos now,
Yeah.
where people are buying things using crypto in like Ghana and El
Yeah.
Salvador and
Yeah.
all these places around the world. So 420 million people. When I did my Google search, I said,
I
"Yeah,
mean,
that's
that seemed
possible."
yeah, especially if you think about those use cases, if it's in like
Yeah,
Africa being able to use it outside of the
right.
fiat currency of the country. I could see that. Not just
Yeah, like I think
speculators,
one
but
of the
people are actually using it. Because you do have that. You
using
have
it.
speculators, and then you have use cases, and then you have people trying to like push their project, and that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I think one of the videos I saw had like someone buying something roadside in Ghana, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So 420 million people, that's about 5%.
Sure.
So, but I guess my concern and my question is, how do you go? How do we see greater adoption? To see it really grow and be successful, you need to be more than 5%, right? You need to actually reach like I need to be reached. I'm
Sure.
the average guy.
Yeah.
You need to get to, I would say, probably like 40%, right? Where you're like, man, this is something that's pretty standard at this point, right?
Yeah.
So what would need to happen, or what strategies need to be employed to reach guys like me,
Mm.
right? All right, or someone probably not even like me. I'm probably a greater risk taker than most people. So
Sure. Yeah.
how do we
Definitely.
reach? So how do we break from that 5% today to maybe the 25% today? So
Yeah.
I thought that that might be the second thing that I would think about. Now, the third question was something I thought might get us kicked out, right?
Hey, I'm all about getting kicked out. Let's have a good story.
Yeah,
What's your
I don't know
question?
what. Well, my question was
My
this.
guess.
All right. So my third question was this. The third question is, um, Bitcoin, right, and just crypto, but Bitcoin specifically was created out of the economic downturn of 2008, right? We kind of just had that
Hmm.
meltdown, and it's like we got to find some other way to take control, right, of our financial condition. So bring it back and decentralize it and put it into the hands of people, right?
Yeah.
Away from these large institutions, right? And governments. Great. That's a great idea. And I think everybody has bought into it. And if you go into any of these conferences, I'm going to expect that that's going to be the conversation and the driver. And people like, this is the reason why this came about. However, doesn't it seem like it's been co-opted by the elite, large financial institutions and somewhat governments? But now we're going to walk into a conference that almost everybody there is probably the top 5%,
Mm,
right? There's no like this is not now like it was intended for the common guy
mm,
or that person most impacted. But today it's truly only accessible, really accessible to that top tier,
yeah.
right? And therefore, the longer it sits up in that space, my concern is that it won't trickle down to the people that it was intended to help.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to a economic level. I mean anybody can buy it. Let's say if you want to jump on an exchange, you can download an app and you can buy Bitcoin or crypto, whatever kind of crypto you want. You can do that, right? Like it's not a matter of accessibility. Let's take Americans. You and I are American. If you want to jump on Coinbase and you want to buy it, get approved, you get do that by tonight. Or if you want to do a DeFi project through like a Uniswap or something else, and you can Google and figure out how to do all that, then you can do that too. So it really is accessible. So why would you say that it's for the top and not for everyone?
Well, I just feel like I said, for me to have gotten access to it or even got to this point, it took some effort and cajoling, to be quite honest
Sure.
with you, and people being like, "You really should do this." But
Yeah.
I kind of sat there and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure,
Right.
right? Excuse me. However, again, like we're going to go to a conference,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the people who are going to be active and really excited and like involved in this are
Yeah.
not the people who struggled in 2008,
Sure.
right?
And I
And
mean, it
so,
does like if I push back a little bit, we are
sure,
going to a conference in Dubai. And
this
you're
is true
like,
also.
your average dude in Kansas is not like flying into Dubai to go to a cryptocurrency conference in his private jet. I know you're taking your private jet. And so, I mean, it's
That's
not
true.
everybody
I
is
am
like
taking that.
you.
This is true.
No, but like
I am.
you wouldn't do this, and I live and work here, and I wouldn't fly in for it. But like
Yeah,
because we can, it's like, hey, we should because it'll be fun, and maybe who knows what will happen. We have no idea what's gonna happen. But I think it's like any technology though. Early adopters take all the risk.
sure
Like
does. Yep.
if we think crypto and Bitcoin are going to do what they're going to do and say let's 5% of the population now, and let's say it's the same type of S curve that was adoption for the internet, was adoption for every technology, the telephone, airplanes, cars. I mean, you can go through history. And so let's say in 2030, and it's what we think it's going to do is 10x, 20x, it just keeps going up. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of people look at early adopters, which I think we still are, and say, oh, yeah, obviously you had conviction to hold it. Like how tough would that be? And they don't realize when the market flops and it goes from 60 to 20 and now it's back to 30. And so I mean, it looks obvious. It looks obvious today that as we're doing this Zoom call and you and I are looking at each other and you're in India, I'm in Dubai, and anybody on the internet can watch this, that like, oh yeah, obviously the internet is the form of communication that we're going to use now. But 15 years ago, like this isn't happening at all. And so I think it just depends on, I would say that number one. Number two, crypto, like my biggest reason for being in Bitcoin and Ethereum especially is for a store of value. I hate inflation, and I just hate what the government does with my money. And so I want to figure out how to hold value. And for maybe those who are outside of the top 5%, 10%, 20%, what have you, if you're just trying to pay your bills, trying to feed your family, like you're not trying to store value. You don't have value to store. And so like there is that deal that if we're like, hey, just go buy a Bitcoin. Yeah, it's only $30,000. Right? So which 2 years ago, if we'd have been like, oh man, that's like 2 for 1 back when people were paying $60,000. But thinking about that, like, yeah, you had to be like, for me, I got in at the right time to be able to put some toward it. That it has, since I bought it, I think my first Bitcoin purchase, I bought a 0.00 whatever. I literally bought like $100 worth of it when it was 5,000 US dollars, when everything dropped in 2020. And so, yeah, I was there at the right time, but also I still have that and probably should have sold it when it was $65,000 in hindsight. But I think I'm just going to keep it. Bitcoin is my bet. It's my real estate bet. Everybody else who owns a home in the US, like that's your store of value. That's all you got. And I don't have that. I'm rolling my dice with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And if it's worth a lot in 10, 20 years, awesome. If it's not, then I'll just be the dude taking your order at McDonald's when I'm 65, or working at Walmart,
So,
helping people, and just having a nice Subway lunch and going home to my small apartment.
okay, so here's a couple of things. All right, one, I think it's important to point out, right, for those people who are about Bitcoin, you don't have to go spend $25,000 on a Bitcoin. You can
Right.
spend $50, right,
Yeah.
and you can buy, as you said, stack
Satoshis.
those Sats, right? You got to just
Stack those
buy,
sats.
stack those Sats, right? So don't think about like, oh, I can't afford Bitcoin. Yes, you can. You might not get a full Bitcoin, however, you will be able to invest and buy a fraction of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's just as good. It's better than doing nothing, right?
That's
And
so
it's a
much
great
better than doing
investment,
nothing.
right?
Yeah.
Now, so I think what I hear from you is that with that third question, I won't get thrown out, right? So I'm pretty excited about that. Won't get thrown
Yeah.
out of that, out of the conference. Now, having said, you pointed out something that's very interesting. It's really about, like, 15 years ago, of kind of how we communicated and all these things. I was just today, I was on Twitter. I'm sorry, X,
X,
right?
X,
Formerly
X.
known as Twitter, right? And I was reading Dr. Jeff Ross. Anybody? He's the founder, CEO of Valeshire Capital Management. And he said this, which I thought was so interesting. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read.
Do it.
And he says, lots of older people struggle to understand Bitcoin. That's like me, right? How can it be real money if you can't touch it? And he tells them that Bitcoin is weird, just like the internet is weird.
Mm,
They remember life before the internet and were skeptical that it would have much of an impact, even years after the arrival of the internet age.
yeah.
Now, all of them, even the most technologically unsavvy, that's like me,
Mm,
have smartphones and use the internet on a daily basis. And so I am using a smartphone right now. We're on the internet. I am technically unsavvy, but he's right on target,
yeah.
right? 10, 15 years from now, that we should be expecting that
Yeah.
this is going to be very common.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to be transacting and doing business. Now, I also, I'm going to share with you. So this, at the conference. One of the speakers who, man, I would love to be able to get 5 minutes of this person's time. This person's name, gosh, what's her name? She's a crypto attorney or whatever they call it. I can't remember her name right now. But anyway, I watched one of her videos and oh, you know what? I'll tell you. Hold on a second. I know where I can get
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
name. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. And that person's name is um, Irina Heaver. She's a crypto lawyer, and she's going to be there. And I'd
Cool.
love to get 5 minutes of her time. But
Yeah.
she made an interesting point, and she said, for the beginner, the better way to get comfortable dealing with crypto is to earn in crypto,
Mm,
right? So to get paid in crypto. And I was like, man,
yeah.
that is a fascinating idea. And so she's saying that, for example, so the work that she does, she rather than getting, what we're a traditional payment, she gets paid in
Mm,
crypto.
mm,
And I thought about that for a second. I said, what if my advisory and consulting, the payment I receive from my work, I could just say, hey, you know what? That amount that you want to pay me in Bitcoin.
yeah. Be great.
Wouldn't that be
And
great?
and then you just don't
You
touch
know,
it. Boom.
and then I don't touch it. So
Yeah.
say one of my,
Be great.
wonderful contracts results in 3, 4 Bitcoin, I get paid, and then I
Yeah.
just sit there. But in like 10 years,
Yeah.
that 3 or 4 whatever that payment that I received,
Hmm.
in any other, like if we got paid today, say it was $25,000 for a Bitcoin,
Sure.
it's possible, in 5, 10 years, that 25,000 is not worth 25,000 anymore.
Yeah.
However, maybe one Bitcoin might be worth
I think it comes back to
150,000.
yeah, like us talking about just how familiar can you get with it. Obviously, learning about it, but I'm a hands-on kind of guy, and I still remember when I jumped in, it was like, well, I gotta download the app. I gotta figure out what exchange. Okay, this Coinbase one seems legit. Let me buy $50. Let me buy $20. And even if
Right.
it's I think too many times we think in crypto, it's like, well, like you said, well, this is $30,000. How would I ever buy it? No, 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 no. Just buy a fraction. Buy some Satoshis, buy a little bit of Ether, buy whatever fun one sounds cool, and just see how it works and pass it back and forth. Send it to somebody or put it on a hot wallet and just see how you can pass it back and forth. And the more we do that, if you earn in crypto, I mean, I think it's great. The more we can be familiar with anything, the better we'll feel about it, and the more conviction you'll have, and not feel silly. Be like, hey, have you heard about this crypto thing? And you can be like, oh yeah, I have it. I have some. I used it. Works great.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought those were all some interesting things that are out there. I'm looking forward to the conference in the next 2 days.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to ask some dumb questions. And
yeah,
I know that whole idea of like no question is a dumb question. That's just fake. I don't know who
that's
made that
true.
up. There are some really dumb questions,
I
you
almost told
know.
one of my kids that yesterday, like, quit asking dumb questions. But
Yeah.
I refrained, but it was super close. It was super
Yeah,
close.
yeah. Yeah, anybody who ever says to you that that's not a dumb question, that's possible it is a dumb question, right? But yeah, anyway, they're just trying to protect you from that.
That's true.
Now we did now we just touched on something that I'd love to spend a little bit of time with, and that is ETF. I keep hearing about ETFs, right? And I think a lot of people, and this is that bridge, right? An
Yeah,
ETF is a bridge between what is somewhat old world to now what does it mean in the crypto world,
yeah,
right? What's happening in the investment world that we need to know about ETFs,
yeah,
right? And I think that we've done a lot of we've done a lot of stuff in terms of terms and defining it, but this might actually be a really interesting term where we're able to bridge some of the stuff we learned, and it becomes a little bit more practical in terms of where we invest our money. So, do you want to start?
sure.
And then we jump in.
Um,
Go for it, wherever you'd like to start.
I think, like I talked about before, and it's kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation of like the 5% or the people that know how to figure out how to buy crypto, how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. And the old way, which is still the way to do it, is to get on an exchange, buy some crypto, and then you have it and you're the one that is doing it, which is one of the reasons that people are into crypto, is because they want to hold it. They want it to be their own and not trust a bank or etc., but to have their own funds under their own control. But that can also be a little bit confusing, because if I told my dad, if I told uncle, hey, this is what you need to do, it would literally need to be like a 20-step written out thing, and it would get really confusing. But
I've been asking you for that, by the way. You have not sent it to me yet. So upset at you.
but ETF, exchange trade fund, which is, if you don't know what an ETF is, it's basically like a mutual fund or any fund that is except for our ETF is being managed actively. And basically you are going to the traditional finance and saying, hey, I want to give you $100, $1,000, and I want to put it in this fund. Well, ETFs have been kicking around for a long time, but they just have been kind of in the news recently because BlackRock, who is the biggest fund manager in the world and one of the most powerful companies in the world, applied for an ETF a few months ago. And they've applied, I think it's for 500
So
and go ahead.
just really quick, yeah. I mean, when you say powerful, they're probably more powerful than most countries in the world.
Legit. Yeah.
That's what, yeah, like,
They'd be a
so
top 10
if you,
most powerful country in the world if they were a country.
yeah, so if you don't know who BlackRock is, you could probably Google it, and you don't have to go past the first page to
Nope,
see
you
who
just
BlackRock
learned a
is.
little
Yeah,
bit. But
there you go.
they applied for this ETF, and they've applied, I think it is for 579 or a number like that, ETFs previously in different assets, and they've been approved for 579, and I think they got denied once. And so the SEC, and you can also, if you're interested in that, it's just the arm of the government that is trying to what they would say, protect people like the common man, like Leni, protect him and his money and him trying to not to get ripped off. His angelic face.
Oh man.
But they're part of the government, so they're pretty corrupt too. But this is in my opinion. And there's a guy named Gary Gensler, and you could Google him.
It's gonna
And
be like, knock, 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 knock. I think someone's at your door, buddy.
exactly. But they keep denying like these ETFs over and over. Other companies have applied for it, but BlackRock, when BlackRock came in, everybody was like, oh, like the game has changed because they are more powerful than anybody else. And so
Like, this is
it's
a real thing. We
a
need to
real
pay
thing,
attention to
and it's a
this.
snowball that's coming. And all of this to say, like we started with, either you can figure out how to buy crypto, or you could give BlackRock your money and say, hey, why don't you buy it for me? So for traditional finance people, like I can think of literally a handful of really wealthy people that I know that I've had conversation about crypto with, but like don't want to do the whole 20-step thing. They can now, not now, but any day, anytime, probably in the next 6 months, when BlackRock gets approved, they can be like, okay, now I can just give my money to this ETF. I know how to do that. And again, it is like, how familiar are you with something? If you're familiar with traditional finance, then that's what you're going to do. And there's a wall of money that is going to come in when this gets approved. So it's in the beginning stages, and I think that we're going to see a lot of fireworks over the next year plus. So that's a
Now,
little bit of an ETF.
of an ETF. So now, do you think guys like me, guys like
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
or just people like us who might own some Bitcoin, that our expectation is that if BlackRock or these are if you know if they're starting to come in, if the ETF gets approved, if we see that that's happening, the price of Bitcoin will go up. Is that an
Yes.
expectation?
It's an
Thank
expectation
you for
because
that
it's.
answer. Thank
You
you.
like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Love it.
It's supply and demand, right?
Right.
That's the beauty of this whole thing. They can't print a bunch more Bitcoin because there's a lot more demand. So if you have a finite supply and way more people want it, the price will go up.
So now there are two events that are happening. What just happened? I just saw balloons come up.
Happy birthday, Lenny!
How did that happen? I don't know how I
No
did that.
idea. I
Did I
loved it,
do that
man.
with my hand? What if I do it like this? Will it happen again?
Wow.
I just
Look at
discovered
that.
something, bro.
Hey, if you're
Look
listening
at
on the
this.
podcast, Lenny's releasing balloons into the air on his Zoom account. I don't know how he's doing
Uh,
it, but it's pretty great.
how did that happen, man? That was
I do that.
ridiculously awesome. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I don't know how I did that, man. Anyway, I'm pretty psyched. Now that I know this, I'm gonna do this all the time. Um, so no, what I was gonna excuse me, I was gonna say that there are two things that are happening. One is ETFs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The other is the halving, haveling, halfling.
Having.
What? Yes, right. And
Having.
the happening. Those
Yes.
two things so are happening in the next 12 months.
Right. The happening will happen next summer.
And both of those events are what you're saying are going to impact the price of Bitcoin.
Yep. And again, it's supply and demand. Like we talked about, if you want to check out our mining episode, we talked about what happens with the reward. And right now the reward is it is it 12 Bitcoin or 6 Bitcoin right now?
You ask, listen, I'm the amateur dude. Like
So
here.
am I.
You
I
ask
think
me.
it's 6
Okay.
right now.
Okay, good.
But it's gonna have, so now it's gonna go down to 3. And then
Okay.
so if there's this wall of money that's going to come from the traditional finance, and then the Bitcoin is going to be cut down in half. So there's going to be half as much Bitcoin per day that's being produced. So I mean, you're exactly right. It's a perfect storm that is coming. And that's why if there's a guy named Michael Saylor that owns the most Bitcoin in the world, his company MicroStrategy, that's all they have on their balance sheet is Bitcoin. And he always says it whenever he gets interviewed, it's just going to keep going up forever because that's supply and demand. Because
Right.
if everybody is, if today 5% of people recognize crypto and Bitcoin as, oh yeah, we use that, we're going to keep using it. And then in what, let's say 3 years, it's 10%. And then in 5 years, it's 20%. Like it's just, it literally is going to keep going up forever because the other option is fiat money being printed by governments.
Right.
And especially as the world, as we see, is becoming more and more and more and more global, then if I want to send money to Delhi and India is not trusting the USD as much anymore, and it's going to be less and less. But if we could both agree, like, hey, we could use a stable coin, or we can use ETH, or we can use Bitcoin if we really wanted to. Yeah, why wouldn't we do that? Like it literally is, if you think about it, it just makes sense. This whole deal makes the most sense. And it's probably time to jump on if you haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I would say that. And that's the reason I brought it up, that if anybody's out there listening, now's probably the time to drop $100, $200, $1,000, $25,000.
Boom,
Right?
let's
It
do
might
it.
be if
Fat
let's
finger
do
that
it,
thing.
right? Exactly. Now, all right. So now we spent some time on ETFs. We spent some time on a whole bunch of things. One thing that we haven't talked about a lot are exchanges. And I know it's been mentioned. I know you've mentioned like Coinbase a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for those who are watching the episode, listening to the podcast, maybe you could take a few minutes and talk about exchanges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exchange
Cool.
in its simplest form is just a way to be able to buy money, buy crypto.
Shame
And
on you.
you want to buy some money? buying crypto these days, probably you have to trust a centralized exchange like Coinbase, or there are, and something we can talk about later, there's DeFi places where you can go buy crypto through a decentralized exchange. And but a traditional one, like a centralized Coinbase, there's many more that you can Google, and in different countries, Bitfinex, all kinds. But they are the way, they're the middleman in order to get people to be able to purchase
Who do you
crypto.
use, by the way?
Coinbase, always have. But
Yeah.
I did have an FTX account. I had a little bit of crypto on an FTX account, and the bad thing is that you have to remember, an exchange, like a exchange, is not a wallet. It's a company that is trying to buy and sell crypto. And so if you have no idea what FTX is, Google it. And it's Sam
I think
Bankman-Fried's baby, who is like literally about to go to jail for probably the rest of his life because he
right.
screwed everybody out of billions of dollars because he was using it as his own piggy bank. And so again, it brings us back to stuff we've talked about before, which is, if it's not your keys, it's not your coins. And so if you get stuck, if you're using Voyager, which I did, and I had money on Voyager, and then they went belly up, guess what? I got 30% of my crypto back and my funds, and had X amount of dollars on there, and it sucks. So it's probably best. It's those tough lessons. That's like, hey, get your stuff off the exchange as soon as possible. Unless you're like kind of buying and selling and you have a very small amount on there, it's probably okay. But yeah, it could go belly up. But Coinbase has been reputable. If anybody is looking for an exchange, that would be my number one recommendation these days. But
I had a chance when flying to New York. I watched the Coinbase documentary.
yeah, I watched
Anybody who
that
gets the
too on
chance,
a flight.
yeah, anybody who gets a chance to watch it, I thought it was actually great. It's called
Yeah.
Coin, a Founder's Story. Definitely worth watching. Um, really gave, like, they went through kind of that early stage of what what was going on, and they talk about the white paper that originally kind of just started this whole thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when people saw it, so definitely worth watching. I have my stuff on Coinbase,
Yep.
but now that you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I need to get it off of Coinbase,
Yeah, probably.
and I
It's a
need
good
to
idea.
get it, yes, onto a wallet.
Yeah.
And where, because if it's on Coinbase, you still you don't have access to it,
Yeah.
right? And I
I mean, you
think
do
that
have access, but if they close it down, it's like
right,
I know thousands of people that would have talked about FTX in the same manner I'm talking about Coinbase right now. Oh, they're
right.
reputable, they're very trustworthy, and then all of a sudden FTX like shut down. And it's like, what? What happened? And it's like the tale as old as time is like, oh, this guy was a liar and a criminal, but he was so nice.
It's like your buddy that you hang out with. He's holding on
Yeah.
to your money,
Yeah,
and
I got it
then
for you.
he gets, yeah, I got it for you. Then he gets arrested, and you're like, oh my gosh.
It's exactly the same.
Wait, yeah, I don't know if anybody else if they have friends like that, and I'm not saying I do. I'm just
Hmm.
saying
Yeah.
that would be what that would be similar to,
Some of
right?
your New
So,
York friends.
hey, maybe there are actually some of those out there. Anyway, so as you said, there's many of them out there. Coinbase is the one that you and I
Mhm.
use. Listen, Mark Cuban, I think, said you should use Coinbase,
I don't know.
and so yeah, I think he said that. Maybe
Coinbase is not a sponsor
just made that up.
as of yet, but just so everybody knows, we're not being
Yeah,
sponsored by
this is true. They're
Coinbase.
not. Yeah, we're not.
Probably next
But
year, but not yet.
if they want to,
Yes,
we're more than happy to. Yeah,
we will
and
share our information.
so if you're looking to invest, though, however, go check them out. They've worked really great for us. And then
Yeah,
at some point, get off there, get it to your wallet,
get on a
right?
wallet.
And get on a wallet. Anyway, so those are two things I think we touched on some pretty good stuff here. But now, very quickly, we're going to be away, right? This
Yeah.
week, we're going to be at the conference. We're
Yeah.
going to try to get some footage.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully asking
We're
questions,
going to.
interviewing people.
That'd be great.
And yeah, it's going to be fun. Andrew, anything else before we call it a wrap today?
No, man, I'm glad we got to reconnect, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this conference. If anybody else is gonna be at the conference, we'd love to connect with you, and it's gonna be a good experience. As we said, we have never been to anything like this, and so it's gonna be our first experience in with, as Lenny said, with the 5%, and Lenny will be rolling up in his Lamborghini, and I'll make sure I get a lot of footage of that, and we'll see how that looks.
Yeah, you do that. That won't be that much, but yeah, sure. And for everybody out there, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, leave a comment. If there's something that you want us to talk about or cover, please just let us know. We look forward to seeing you guys again soon. All right, Andrew, I'll catch you later. Right?
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, see you tomorrow, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, you are listening to Hard Knock Crypto. A new episode drops every Friday.